The year was 1984. We were in Israel. The Jewish tour guide looked at me and he said, "Jack, you're a free climber. You love to climb." And I said, "Yeah, I do." So I strapped a Bible onto me and I started up the cliff. 10 feet from the top of the cliff, I went into an overhang. I tried to negotiate myself over the lip, but I couldn't. On the descent, I grabbed onto a rock and the rock gave way and I immediately went into a free fall. Pain just shot through my body. There's no way I could ever give you any words to put to the kind of pain that I experienced. And so I tried to find my legs, and of course, the horror of not knowing where your legs are is a pretty incredible experience. I got down to where my hips were, and I found my legs, but they were numb. It was like rubber, and it was like I was touching somebody else's legs, and I realized that I had become a paraplegic. My life would be forever different.
There's a new movement that is starting to happen. And as it's starting to happen, what is behind it is that the gospel must be preached to every creature.
It's estimated there are 1 billion people around the world with disabilities.
That's an invisible group of people. For my family, it wasn't invisible at all. My second son was born with a significant birth defect, and we raised a disabled child. So everything we did was different than it was for other families.
We have 4 daughters, and our younger daughter was found with cerebral palsy. And through this experience, having Deborah, we have learned different ways to support her.
There are 650 million people around the world with disability across all cultures. Many of these people are shackled with shame, forced out, locked away and forgotten. Their voices are silenced. Their faces are hidden. Why do their lives matter? William Wilberforce once said, because they bear the image of God.
When you realize such a great number of people that are usually marginalized, they're usually forgotten, they're usually the ones that are the poorest, the ones that are most illiterate, and so on. When you realize they are the ones being forgotten, those are the ones that Jesus said to go to and take care of those that are lame, those that are blind.
I used to listen to people talk about their children taking their first steps. And I came home to watch my wife teaching my son to take his first steps. While for other folks it was met with joy, for us it was met with tears. Because he cried with every step as he tried to walk with leg braces and crutches. And to make a foot or 2 feet was a major, major accomplishment.
But we need to do more. And that's when I see, as they start coming to Christ, then they need to see how they fit in the workforce of mission. How can they be trained and released and be a part of the Great Commission? And this is where Jack Oppenhuizen comes in.
They wheeled me into a ward with 18 other guys for 3 months. I couldn't move out of bed. I was flat on my back. I remember one night, it was about 11 o'clock at night, and I had borrowed the nurse's lamp and I was reading a book. And I remember a very eerie presence all around me. And I looked up and I was surrounded by soldiers in fatigues. And I looked up and I said, "What do you want?" And they said, "We heard about your fall and we want to hear what God did on that cliff." I began to just share my heart and shared for a couple hours. They said goodnight and they said they'd come back. At 6 o'clock the next morning, they came in. And I remember being a little shocked. They were civilians now. They weren't in their fatigues. And they were carrying a duffel bag. And that duffel bag was filled. They put the duffel bag down and they took out the cologne and the shampoo and all the things that I had not been used to. And they washed every portion of my body all the way to my toes. And I remember being that vulnerable. But that story began to be whispered around every single bed in a 1,000-bed hospital. And it didn't stop there. And they began to come and visit me to hear about what happened at the cliff. God got to show a country full of people what it was like for his hands and his feet to be literally the hands and feet that would wash the broken and the needy.
We have this ministry called Project Deborah, and this is a ministry that is working to reach the disabled community.
I met Jack Oppenhuizen 10 years ago. He has a call in his life to reach disabled people. Currently, he's engaged with training and equipping disabled students to send them around the world to bring the gospel to people with disabilities. And not just to bring the gospel, to bring them hope in areas of medical care, to bring them hope in the areas of leadership and life skills. It's a huge task. The population group is probably one of the largest unreached people groups in the world today. I don't know anybody that's better equipped and trained and motivated to do this than Jack.
We are in a historical movement that was prophesied in Micah 4:6-7. In that day, declares the Lord, I will gather the lame, the disabled and the outcast. I will make them into a strong nation, and the Lord will reign over them from now and forever. God called the disabled, the outcast, his nation.
Be a part of the prayer foundation for this movement. Be a part of those that are encouraging others who do have disabilities, that they too can be a part of the Great Commission.
God is raising up modern-day abolitionists to free the captives, to be ministers of reconciliation and to bring the healing of Christ's love.
We thank God for Jack Oppenhuizen that has been an inspiration to us to believe in what God is doing in the whole world.
Be a part of this by beginning in prayer. Be a part of this by encouraging others and by giving to others to help them along the way to minister through even their disabilities, to reach others not only that are disabled, which will give them a great encouragement, but even to the able-bodied.
As I reflect upon the last 23 years, I've not only been in ministry with people with disabilities, but I have to also think about those young men that served me. They were Christ's hands and feet in my life, but it also changed their lives. It changed their children's lives, and I met their children. It changed people around the world, and it changed people in their nation. Whenever we take Christ's compassion and God's justice and bring it to the oppressed, the marginalized, and those who are forgotten, we bring the kingdom of God on this earth. His joy is made full, and His power is made perfect in our weakness. So let's be the audiovisuals of God and be Christ's hands and feet to this world.